Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Have you ever felt like navigating office politics is just this completely unwinnable game? Like no matter what you do, you can't get ahead? Well, today, we're decoding a really fascinating framework drawn straight from our source material. It's actually inspired by the tactical brilliance of certain anime characters, and it's designed to help you navigate those complex office dynamics with absolute pinpoint precision. We are calling it the White Room Algorithm. To kick things off, I want you to consider this question straight from our source material. Who is the biggest target in a crowd? Is it the loudest person or the quietest? Take a second and really think about it. Now, I'm betting most of us would instantly guess the loudest, right? But the thing is, the quietest person also draws a ton of suspicion. They look vulnerable or kind of out of place. The answer here might actually surprise you because the source points out that they are both massive targets. So, escaping the crosshairs? It requires a totally different approach. Okay, so here's our roadmap for today. First, we're going to break down the White Room algorithm itself. Second, we'll look at mastering strategic insignificance. Third is behavioral mapping at work. And finally, we'll wrap up with applying the water technique. Basically, we're going to explore how to treat your office like a strategic grid, using infiltration, observation, and neutralization.
All right, section 1, the White Room algorithm. Let's establish what this algorithm actually is and why the standard advice you hear about office survival completely misses the mark.
The absolute core premise here is that silence is outdated. Our source argues that just observing people or staying quiet over in the corner, that's just a surface-level trick. I mean, everyone reads about those tricks online nowadays anyway. True mastery means guiding how people react without them ever realizing they're being influenced. It's really all about establishing a framework of absolute control, right from the shadows. Moving right along to section 2, mastering strategic insignificance. Let's get into our first tactical phase, infiltrating your office environment. Strategic insignificance. Think of it as active camouflage. It literally means deliberately becoming the absolute most average, unmemorable background character in a group. So the really crucial point here is that you aren't trying to be this empty void. You're not just being completely mute. Instead, you're employing active camouflage to seamlessly and perfectly blend into your environment. Just think about the contrast for a second. When people join a new team or hop into a meeting, they generally do one of two things. They either try to show off to prove their worth, or they sit there silently because they're nervous. But both of those behaviors make you a massive target. The algorithm requires you to be the baseline average. You want to provide just enough normal, everyday input in meetings so that you're technically participating, but literally no one remembers exactly what you said afterwards. Our source captures this mindset so perfectly with this quote: "Your goal is to enter the system without triggering security alarms. By acting perfectly harmless and, honestly, painfully average, you ensure your colleagues just drop their guard entirely, and this is exactly how you gain control. They'll start revealing their true weaknesses, they'll start complaining, and they'll show you their real personalities, simply because they assume you aren't a threat." Okay, section 3, behavioral mapping at work. So now that you've infiltrated the background and successfully lowered everybody's defenses, it is time to gather some data. The core rule of observation here is pretty simple. Ignore the words. Focus entirely on the reactions. The source explains that human beings are fundamentally like programmed machines. When we're put under stress, we react in fixed, entirely predictable patterns. What a person says out loud is often a lie or just a defense mechanism, but their physical reactions, that is the true data you need to map out. Let's look at a really specific office scenario to see exactly how this plays out. Imagine a highly confident coworker gets jokingly insulted in the break room. That's step 1. For step 2, that colleague tries to hide their hurt ego and forces this totally neutral face, maybe even lets out a fake laugh. Then, step 3, they immediately pull out their phone and start staring at a completely blank screen, even though they didn't get a notification. You see that a lot, right? That is a classic displacement activity. What you just witnessed in that little break room scenario is what the source calls a glitch. You're actively looking for these micro glitches, those tiny deviations from their normal baseline behavior. When you spot them, it reveals all their hidden insecurities and stressors. So the really crucial point here is to catalog these glitches. You're building a mental map of what specifically stresses out your coworkers. And this matters because once you understand their exact triggers, you hold the levers to their behavior. All right, on to section 4, applying the water technique. Finally, let's explore how to use all this positioning and data you've gathered to handle those aggressively confrontational colleagues.
So when an office bully tells you that your work is totally useless or they try to dominate a conversation, standard strategies just fail. Fighting back, that just leads to escalation. Staying silent, well, that just makes you a victim. But the water technique, you agree completely with the critic. And the result is absolute neutralization and boredom. It radically, completely flips the dynamic.
The source says, water doesn't hit back. It absorbs the impact and forces the attacker to waste their energy. Think about that for a second. If you punch a pool of water, your fist just goes right through it, right? If a dominating colleague insults your work and you simply look at them and say, "Yes, you are right, my work is useless," you absorb their punch like water. You are giving their ego absolutely nothing to fight against. So here is the exact step-by-step checklist for executing this perfectly in the office. First, agree completely with their insults. Second, maintain a calm, perfectly neutral tone. Seriously, no sarcasm at all. Third, absolutely refuse to get provoked or angry. And fourth, just sit back and watch them lose interest. Because the attacker only wants to exert power and get an emotional reaction out of you, continuously validating their insults without giving them that emotion will cause them to quickly get bored. They'll stop bothering you within a matter of days. It's incredibly effective.
Our source concludes by hinting at a massive psychological secret that took 2 full years of intense observation to master, which kind of brings us to a final thought for today. If things like strategic insignificance and the water technique can so thoroughly neutralize office conflicts, what other profound psychological tools of absolute control are waiting to be decoded in your workplace? Keep your eyes open, watch out for those glitches,